What's going on, guys? It is
What's going on, guys?
Garrett and Lincoln
Main
coming at
card,
you.
UFC, Fight
Yes,
Night, Vegas.
yes, it's good. It's very good. Um,
Thank
this
you, my
is
friend.
this is what we're basically coming at you with. We have, hey, Angel, we have this pretty badass main card that we really enjoyed. And we kicked off the night with a lightweight bout between Bobby King Greene versus Thiago Moises, one of the Contender Series alumni from the Brazilian version of the show from 2018, if I'm not mistaken, 2018, 2019, I believe. And Thiago Moises came out against Bobby Greene, who was looking for his fourth UFC victory in 2020. However, due to some of the shortcomings of Bobby Greene, unfortunately lost the decision to Mr. Moises. And I want to talk about what some of those shortcomings may have been. But first, I want to hand it to my cohort Lincoln and get some of his thoughts and opinions.
I really just thought Bobby Greene did enough to get the W, but
Really?
at the same time, you got to think of what the judges are looking at.
Yes.
And he was doing the showboating, the
Mm-hmm.
kind of MVP Anderson Silva type of thing, where he's trying to bait you into coming forward.
Mm-hmm.
And Moises was just not having it, and I
No.
could, and but I felt like Moises didn't do enough of coming forward until later in the fight.
Okay. Very interesting. Because
What did you see, sir?
I saw Moises. We're talking about Moises and what he did. I feel like Moises was actually the person who edged out to get the victory because of a lot of his submission attempts. Um,
Hmm.
he had
Yeah,
he had a pretty good heel hook, reverse heel hook in there. I understand he had another submission earlier on. Um, he was definitely tagging Bobby Greene a lot, and I think if we were looking at the damage dealt, Moises was definitely hurting Bobby Greene. But if we were to talk about what Bobby Greene did wrong, and I think that is
where we're
the
at right
where we're really at with that is that I think Bobby Greene just had his hands down the entire
now. Yeah,
time. I think that
far too
ties
much
into
for
that
sure.
showboating that you're talking about.
It does for sure. Sorry, I'm adjusting.
You're okay.
For
And
yeah, but like it felt like his showboating and the way he was fighting worked for at least round one and part of two.
I think he definitely
But
won round two.
yeah, but after that, with the heel hook and the other submission attempt, and just the overall better strikes and better punishment and better damage landed, it has to go to Moises.
Yeah, I think that's just like you can't even no matter how good you think you are, it just kind of comes down to you can't have your hands down because you want to have your hands down. Guess what? You're going to get kicked in the face like you did. You're going to get punched in the face like you did.
You're gonna have a
And
huge cut over your eye, like you have.
yeah, and it just kind of bothers me because it's like you're in a fight, you know? You're in a fight, put your hands up. Let's fight. Don't stand there with your hands down by your side because you're not fighting an amateur.
You're
Okay,
right.
you're fighting a serious I don't want to say contender, but everybody's basically a because everybody's technically a contender. But
Yeah,
you're fighting a serious Brazilian
opponent.
threat. Like this guy's a threat. This guy is an actual threat. And don't stay. I feel like the level of disrespect Bobby Greene shows his opponents shows in his performance last night.
For
He
sure.
he didn't
It catches
respect
up.
Moises. He didn't respect Moises, and it ended up costing him, and rightfully so. So
It, well deserved.
yeah,
Meanwhile, Kevin Holland became the first fighter to get to 4-0 in 2020.
yes, he did. Yes, he did. He actually he came out over Bobby Greene in that regard, and he not only um, beat Charlie Ontiveros, he most likely seriously injured him. Um, Kevin Holland.
Why'd you say it like that? You made me laugh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. it's not funny, but it's
It's
said it
not
really
funny.
funny.
It's the way you said it.
Yeah, but Kevin Holland, who has been, on an absolute tear, beating the likes of Joaquin Buckley, earlier this year. Um, he's just on a tear, and he came in against Charlie Ontiveros, who I believe is another last minute fighter. Um, he was another last minute opponent for Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland took it anyway. Um, they were fighting, and they were kind of going for tit for tap and doing all their stuff. And Kevin Holland essentially came out and he locked up with him, and he went to put him into a takedown, which you don't really see that a lot from Kevin Holland, going to the takedowns. But he went for it, and he kind of got him in this weird position where he was almost in a standing arm triangle, almost.
Kinda. And then he
And
like kicked his legs out.
yeah, and then he kind of sweeped him, threw him back, and as soon as Ontiveros hit the canvas, apparently he was just yelling like my neck, because I guess he had heard something pop, and Mark Smith put a stop to the contest and ruled about a verbal submission victory for Kevin Holland.
It
And,
works.
and so Ontiveros had to be taken out of the
Stretch.
octagon on a stretcher. Yeah. And then I think the most interesting takeaway from the contest is how Kevin Holland immediately turned around to gab with Israel
Israel.
Adesanya, who was there for the contest, because apparently he was in town for the Contender Series. He's got some teammates that are um, competing this week and next week. Actually, I believe it's next week and the week after that. So he's in town for those guys, but he was in the what little audience I guess they have. Um, and Kevin Holland was talking to him, saying stuff like, oh, you're my boy, and all this stuff. And Israel Adesanya was just like, you need to shut
Nah.
up. Yeah, he was like, no, it's all right. He was saying stuff like, why don't you check on the guy you just seriously injured instead of
Yeah,
worrying about me. Um,
exactly. Spoken like a real champ.
Yeah, for real. It was just very interesting. It's kind of interesting because, I mean, if we're talking about Kevin Holland, I do think Kevin Holland, I think, is due for some ranked opponents.
For sure.
After going 4-0 in 2020, I think it's about time. Um, so I hope that he can actually get that. You know, Maybe if he wants to fight again before Christmas, we'll see. But I do see 2021 hopefully being a good year for Kevin Holland. Um,
I
I think
believe
he's
it.
got a lot of potential, but need those ranked opponents.
Now to talk about somebody who I hope has a terrible 2021, we got
Mhm.
Greg Hardy coming in with a knockout this week.
Yes, Greg Hardy manhandled Maurice Greene. I
Yes,
mean,
he
manhandled him.
destroyed him.
I couldn't understand it. It was like
That
right from
Rashad
the
Evans training.
yeah, right from the get go, right from the
But
get
God, was
go.
he out of breath for that interview, though?
Yeah, yeah, like he
Goodness
was.
gracious.
According to his post-fight interview, he was exhausted before he even got to the
I believe it. He
octagon.
had to be.
Yeah, and this is apparently after he was almost the first heavyweight in the history of the UFC to miss weight.
I know, that's
Almost.
bonkers.
He didn't quite get there. He had his hour or something like that, or 2 hours, and he managed to lose the necessary weight to be ordered to make the limit. But I mean, that was just crazy that he was even there. Apparently, oftentimes he has a hard time cutting the weight and
It's
making weight.
ridiculous.
Because he was in an interview earlier in the week with Michael Bisping, and Bisping was like, "What weight are you at right now?" And he was like 280 something, and Bisping was just like, "What? You know,
How?
you've got 15 pounds to lose by the end of the week."
He's like, yeah, I'll
Um,
make it.
yeah, so that was pretty crazy. I mean, good performance on Hardy's part, coming in round two. I mean, he basically dominated round one, almost finished Greene in round one, but then just kind of came out and finished him in round number 2. So I feel bad for Maurice Greene, man. I mean, he's one of
He's
those
been
fighters. Yeah, he's trying. He kind of reminds me of Angela Hill. You know, he didn't start really training in martial arts until he was 25.
trying. Yeah,
Um, but I mean, it happens, you know. But
it happens.
yeah, so now Greg Hardy has his win, and we will be seeing where he goes now. Because I don't know, is he even ranked?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I don't think he's ranked. I think this would tell me if he was ranked, but he's not ranked. So maybe he'll start getting ranked opponents as well. We'll find out.
Yeah,
Um,
good. Finally knock his ass out.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
he had Volkov. That's not fair to say. He had Volkov, and
he
Volkov
did.
beat
Oh,
the
yeah,
shit out of him.
Volkov. Yeah,
Yeah,
he did.
yeah,
Volkov was a top contender.
yeah. Volkov was like 7 or something at the time, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I might be mixing up who I thought that was. But anyway, aside from the fact, move into our co-main event in the featherweight division. We had Bryce Mitchell versus Andre Fili. We had Thug Nasty Bryce Mitchell up against Andre Touchy Fili. I like both these guys' nicknames. I think they're very
Me
creative.
too.
So
Give me my camo shorts. I love Arkansas.
yeah, and he finally got him. And he finally got
Finally
him. Yeah, for this bout,
I
that was
just
pretty great.
Bryce Mitchell obviously had a dominant performance for 3 rounds, but I feel like Andre Touchy Fili just didn't have any opportunity to shine this entire fight.
No, no, for sure. I mean,
Every opening he had, he tried to take and just couldn't make it.
yeah, I mean, I think I want to give him, I guess, some credit and say that in round number 2, he did a better job of
For
defending the
sure.
takedowns at the
For
beginning of
sure
the
he did.
round.
But then
But
it slowly started to regress.
yeah, and I think that kind of speaks to what the theme overall of the fight was, which was Bryce Mitchell, more or less it just being about Bryce Mitchell just always going for those takedowns and always initiating the grappling exchanges, and more so Andre Fili just kind of
Not
defending.
being able to do anything else.
Yeah, defending the entire time, not being able to open up any kind of momentum for himself. Um, yeah, I mean it was tough. It was really tough to really get anything going for himself.
Couldn't.
Um,
Every time he had a chance, it just went right away, right out the window.
yeah, and Bryce Mitchell, who was in the top 15 at the start of the fight, I think has now proven that he is going to be slowly moving up the featherweight ladder. Hell, I mean, this might be a little bit close, but I could totally see Bryce Mitchell competing for a title in a year or two.
Me as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just like wow. And you and
He,
I
I
were,
mean,
go ahead.
he could take on Peter Yan at this point.
Yeah, I mean, his grappling, I think, is probably some of the most
Very
clean and
Khabib-like.
technical. Yeah, I mean, the pressure is always there for that grappling. Um, but we'll see. We'll really see. I think because obviously, I think he needs to fill in the gaps in
With his
other
striking.
areas. Yeah, the striking, um, all that stuff. His stand-up game just needs work in general. But I think that if you're going to be so good to where you can just grapple people and win, might as well. Might as well just
I
do
mean,
that.
Khabib made a whole career on it.
Yeah. And then it was more like as time went on, he filled in those
He
other
became more
gaps.
striking, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's pretty impressive stuff from Bryce Mitchell. Can't wait to see more stuff from him. And then we get into Uriah Hall versus Anderson Silva. But I think you and
Which you'll have
I,
to watch in part 3.
yeah, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but we're going to be talking about
So
the
like,
main
comment, and
event.
subscribe.
Yeah, pretty much. And we will see you guys in the last part of our coverage of UFC Vegas 12. Peace.
Peace.